Today, we're going to dive into the economy. Great news there. And we're going to expose what Democrats are quietly plotting for the millions of illegal immigrants already here. Wait until you hear this. Then they're back at it again, trying to strip President Trump of his constitutional powers just as he faces one of the biggest decisions in foreign policy. But first, a verdict has been reached in what's shaping to be the custody battle of the year. President Trump versus Gavin Newsom over the National Guard. Watch this.
The big victory for the Trump administration, it says that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has now ruled, this is a 3-judge panel of the Ninth Circuit Court, has now ruled unanimously that federalized National Guardsmen will remain in California under the command of President Trump, the commander-in-chief. The ruling stays the lower court order that ordered command of the troops back to California Governor Gavin Newsom.
Trump wasted no time popping the digital champagne on Truth Social, writing in part, quote, "The judges obviously realize that Gavin Newsom is incompetent and ill-prepared, but this is much bigger than Gavin, because all over the United States, if our cities and our people need protection, we are the ones to give it to them." Gavin Newsom, apparently he wants to go for round 3, writing, quote, "This fight doesn't end here." Now, what's interesting is the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, it is as liberal as it gets. So this is a massive blow to Newsom, and the second time he has lost on this issue. We're going to see how this all plays out, but I want you to let me know down below what you think. Is there any chance Newsom wins this case in the Supreme Court? Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's switch gears to some breaking news. The left got it wrong again. At this rate, we could probably turn that into a daily segment. Not a bad idea. So what was it this time? Take a look.
It was very clear that these tariffs are going to be passed on to American consumers and are going to slow down the economy.
The best hope for our economy is that there will be enough damage to markets quickly that the administration is led to correct.
They have created havoc in our economy that was improving, and now we have people out there scared to death.
Quick correction there. The only ones scared to death are the Democrats because everybody else is tuning this nonsense out. And the good news is, every time the left gets something wrong, it usually means America wins. Now, Trump's economic policies are not just working, they're delivering big time for the backbone of this country, blue-collar workers.
Blue-collar wage growth, the only other time it's been this high, wait for it, was during President Trump's first term. So we've seen real wages for hourly workers, non-supervisory workers, rise almost 2% in the first 5 months.
Why is that?
No president has done that before.
This marks the biggest wage jump in nearly 60 years, driven by onshoring, new factories, and trillions in U.S. investment. The White House even saying their big, beautiful bill will help fuel this even further. Now, the Senate is expected to vote next week, and so far, sources are telling me it will pass. The president will then sign this into law on the 4th of July. Bottom line, more money in your wallet and a booming economy to match.
If you get paid time and a half on overtime, then you're going to be taxed on the time, but not the half. If you get tips, then you're not going to be taxed on those tips. If you're a Social Security person who's getting taxed on some income because you're maybe taking an extra job, you're not going to be taxed on that. And so all of this is going to add even more juice into the economy.
Now, while President Trump's policies are putting more money directly into workers' pockets, we're also seeing inflation cool faster than what anybody expected. I mean, Americans are finally catching the break they deserve. However, the Fed, they're still asleep at the wheel.
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is misinformed, uninformed, or chloroformed because the inflation picture, as President Trump has rightly called it, is being taken care of. Inflation came in lower than expected last month. We learned that this morning. CPI is at its lowest level in 4 years. Gas prices down to 4-year lows. Oil prices down 15% since President Trump took office. And what is the Fed? They're doing absolutely nothing.
Take a look at this graph showing every major country that has already cut interest rates this year. From Switzerland to India, I mean, central banks across the globe are responding to easing inflation. Even the New York Federal Reserve estimates that the U.S. interest rate should be around 3.3%. That is a full point lower than where Jerome Powell has us stuck right now. So while President Trump is fighting to keep the cost of living down and get money back into your wallet, Democrats are focused on giving your money away. Case in point, New York Governor Kathy Hochul just announced that she's spending $50 million of taxpayer money to provide legal services for illegal immigrants.
We're also concerned about those that are walking out of this courthouse, taken away from their families. They don't have the attention. They don't have the lawyers. And that's why the state of New York is providing $50 million to cover legal services for people who are finding themselves in this situation.
Your taxpayer dollars at work in New York. Now, Democrat Representative Maxwell Frost has a bold solution for the illegal immigration crisis. He says, just legalize everyone. Yeah, his idea is to erase the problem by redefining it.
To my Republican colleagues who say, I don't want any undocumented people in this country, I actually agree with you. So let's document every single one of them with a speedy path to citizenship.
I'll give the guy credit for saying the quiet part out loud, because granting blanket amnesty, I mean, that's not immigration reform. That is voter recruitment, plain and simple. And if that wasn't wild enough, Frost then went full activist on ICE agents. Watch this.
We also have to talk about the agents themselves that are carrying this out. If you have any decency, quit now. Go do something else. Because just doing what you were told has been the justification for some of the worst horrors and crimes against humanity in the history of not just this nation, but this world.
Let that sink in. A sitting U.S. congressman comparing ICE agents who enforce our laws to history's greatest villains. Apparently defending our border is now a war crime in progressive circles. And it's because of this rhetoric on the left that ICE and Homeland Security now have a full-time job just debunking these bizarre lies. Let's take a look at a few recent examples. Newsweek put out a headline that reads, ICE agents laughed at a sobbing wife after detaining husband. DHS fired back, saying the allegations that Alvarez's wife made are completely false. ICE did not use force when they arrested Roberto Diego Alvarez Oliva. Alvarez's wife was not even present at the time of the arrest she claims to have witnessed. Alvarez is an illegal alien from Peru who entered the country under President Biden. He had a final order of removal from a judge. Then a Tennessee news outlet claims a father was deported after a traffic stop and the family was torn apart. Homeland Security writing, why does the media continue to do the bidding of these violent criminal illegal aliens? Hilario Martinez Garcia is a criminal illegal alien whose rap sheet includes domestic violence and felony burglary charges. It is because of these outrageous and false claims that ICE is now facing a 500% increase in assaults while they're carrying out their enforcement operations. That's up from 413% just last week. Let's move to the latest update with Iran. We're now learning that the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier strike group will arrive in the Middle East this weekend, which is potentially an indication as to which way the president is leaning when it comes to eliminating Iran's nuclear bomb.
That is significant because they have additional EA-18 Growler electronic warfare planes on board needed for any B-2 strike on Iran. At the Pentagon, there's little doubt whether the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator or MOP bomb could destroy Iran's Fordo nuclear facility buried 300 feet under a mountain complex with layers of limestone.
You can use a multiple hit scenario so that you have multiple impacts in the same point. You'll create a large crater, spoil will be thrown out, and it allows a pathway for the next munition to go in even deeper and farther, so that successive hits on the same point will allow increased penetration and increased lethality.
While Trump is tasked with making potentially the biggest decision of his administration, Democrats are busy begging for power.
And the Constitution says Congress decides on war and peace. Thomas Massie and I have introduced a resolution of the House. Tim Kaine and Bernie Sanders have introduced one in the Senate. We should have a vote on this. Some say, well, the president can just strike, as you mentioned, with the B-2 bombers, Fordo, and that's not really a war. But most military experts believe if we do that, Iran will strike our troops, would retaliate, then we would have to respond, and that would be a war.
This is rich coming from the Democrats, the same party that's been wrong on every major foreign policy decision for the past 4 years. I mean, Ro Khanna, let's get real. Did Hillary Clinton get congressional approval to keep our consulate open in Benghazi while it was under siege? Maybe she should have. Did Obama ask Congress before taking out Osama bin Laden? Of course not. The American people don't want you, Bernie Sanders, or Tim Kaine anywhere near our national security decisions. So maybe you better sit this one out. Or maybe you'll understand this. Don't. President Trump, he has handled it with strength, strategy, and the judgment your party has repeatedly failed to show.
If you look to Trump's first term, you'll get lessons, as you just mentioned, of Soleimani. I would also remind you of eliminating ISIS. I would also remind you of the 500 dead Russian troops in Syria when Putin disobeyed the warnings of Trump and went ahead with some of his incursions. Trump makes smart decisions after much deliberation.
The president is exercising extreme restraint right now, allowing Tehran some time to come back to the nuclear negotiation table. He's a better man than most, in my opinion, especially considering that he was literally targeted for assassination by Iran and its proxies. And so by not making a strike decision yet and to wait for these talks, it shows every decision in the highest levels of our government is measured and calculated, and that's a really good thing.
If Trump had bombed on day one, they'd cry warmonger. Now that he's showing restraint, they want to call him a chicken. I mean, you literally cannot win with these people. They're also saying this.
It cost us with Iraq $3.6 trillion, 10% of our national debt. For those Republicans concerned about the deficit and the deficit of reconciliation, a war with Iran could be potentially very costly.
And you know what else is costly? A nuclear Iran. The president has to make a decision that could literally be the difference between life and death. And the Dems, they think now is the time to make an argument for being fiscally responsible. At least one progressive understands the gravity of the situation.
I think this is an important moment because I don't think people on the left have thought seriously enough about what if Iran does get the bomb. That's a different world than most of us have thought about as progressives. In other words, Iran is when they say death to America, death to Israel, death to all the Jews. One of those should offend you. At least one should offend you. And their treatment of women and gays is horrific. And if they get a bomb, they're active. North Korea, they've got a bomb, but they kind of just sit around and fire stuff in the ocean and do weird stuff. Iran is actively destabilizing Africa, Boko Haram, etc. So I don't know what to do, but I would like to see progressives take more seriously the threat here of the bomb.
Thankfully, we've got a president who understands that. And while he's making decisions that impact the future of the free world, Democrats are back to calling you crazy, literally.
This idea that we don't care how many people get hurt, we don't care how we prostitute our service members, thinking that you have your own special little army that's for you. I mean, it is sick. It is really sick. And anybody that supports it is also sick. And so, we've got a mental health crisis in this country because everyone, no matter how you affiliate yourself, should be against Trump, period.
Yes. Caroline Leavitt summed it up perfectly.
I hope that she continues to be a rising star for the Republican Party, at least. I think it's incredibly derogatory to accuse nearly 80 million Americans of mental illness. The last time I checked, Jasmine Crockett couldn't dream of winning such a majority of the public as President Trump did. And the America First movement, which President Trump has built, is filled of hardworking patriots, the forgotten men and women, business owners, law enforcement officers, nurses and teachers, and middle America, as we all know, from where you all grew up, outside of this beltway. That's who makes up this president's movement. And Jasmine Crockett should go to a Trump rally sometime and she can see it for herself.
Bottom line here, Trump's delivering wins while the left is delivering nonsense. And while he is boosting paychecks and protecting the country, the Democrats are busy throwing tantrums, rewriting rules, and handing out lawyers to illegal immigrants. But that's okay. Let them keep losing. Because while they're doing that, America is winning. Up next, several LA rioters have been arrested. They're the ones responsible for carrying out some of the most heinous crimes that we all witnessed on our television screens. Wait until you hear what they found at some of their homes and what charges they are now facing. Plus, Arnold Schwarzenegger goes full Terminator on The View. It's good. Go ahead, click on that video you see now on your screen, and I'll see you over there.